coming in at Hamilton Metals, and Tracy Terrell and his crew does a great job on metal roofing.
And yes, I'm dressed with my tie on. I had to pick this metal up on my way to my office on this particular day. So sometimes you have to do things in your dress clothes.
Hello everyone, Larry back with you again, and it is an absolutely beautiful day here in Northwest Alabama, and a great day to be working on a sawmill shed. So that's what we're doing today. Actually, I picked up the metal roof for the sawmill shed last week, and I've already been able to put a little bit of it on, and I'm going to let you join us today as we continue doing some of the last furrings on the other end, fastening those down, and then putting up the last few panels of the metal roof for the sawmill shed. So I hope you enjoy this video. If you do, be sure to give us a thumbs up, and as always, leave a comment down below, and if you will, share it with one of your friends on YouTube. Come on everybody, let's get it started on the metal roof for the sawmill shed today.
Once I got up on the roof to put in these last two sections, little short sections of purlings, it didn't take me long to remember that I had not put on my knee pads, and I had worked a little bit last time without my knee pads on, and it had really taken a toll, bruised up and kind of skin up my knees, and so I remembered real quick that I need to put my knee pads on.
I realized after I got started that the 14-foot 2x4 furrings were not going to be long enough, and I'd already cut a couple, so I'm having to go back and basically splice in where they were short.
Now you would think that the 14-foot, which totals 28 foot, going on a 26-foot roof, that is with the 1 foot overhangs on the end. You would think that 28 foot would be long enough, but what was happening, in order to fall on a rafter to make my joint in the purlings, it cut off a nut just enough that the 14-foot purlings were not long enough. I had the metal cut 12 foot 6 inches long, and that allowed me to be able to have about 2 inches of overhang on the lower edge, about 1.5 inches actually, and about 3 inch on the top part of the roof. And if I put the gutters on the lower edge, that should fall just about right to allow the water to come into the gutter okay. And I know that, as Lumberjack said, there'll be some leaves to clean out, but I think the gutter will help on the back to get rid of the water down on the back of the sawmill. Because of the specific orientation of the ridges on the metal and the way it has to overlap, and because I was wanting it to overlap coming from the west to the east, that's usually the way the wind blows here, I was having to pick up the last piece and slide the next piece underneath it to get that proper orientation on the ridges. I know it's a little time consuming, but I find it difficult just to what I would call cold start the screws into the metal. So I always, no more than there are, I'll take my little punch and punch a starter hole. It just really makes it a lot easier to be able to start the screw in the hole, and usually without doing this I end up some way mashing the tip of my finger with my drill and the bit. Remember, I was talking earlier about the orientation of the ridges on the panels of the metal roof, and after I got this one up there I realized that I had it backwards, and so I had to turn this section of, or this piece of metal roof around to get the orientation correct. I apologize that this closer up shot is a little bit out of focus, but what I wanted you to see was how the screw pulls the metal down on the purlings whenever I screw it in place. I explain it a little more in detail in some of my closing remarks, but what I realized here as I was putting up this last section of metal was the amount of overhang that I would have left if I were to overlap the next to last section and this section by a full ridge spacing. And you can see here it left me with about 4 inches of overhang, and I just felt that to be better than to have to take my grinder and grind this last section of roof panel down, or to make it narrow enough to work okay. And I thought also on this end of my sawmill I didn't have as much overhang as on the other end, and just thought this extra 4 inches would be a little bit better to have it done this way, and made it a lot easier for me. Didn't have to cut this panel down to fit. Putting in the last few screws or fasteners on the roof is a good feeling to know that now the wood miser is in the dry the entire length of the sawmill, and to not have to, as I've mentioned so many times, to not have to tarp it and untarp it now every time that I decide to use it.
Well, there you have it, folks. The metal is on the sawmill shed, and I am so proud to be able to get that up there and not have to tarp the wood miser anymore, hopefully. Never say never. I thought it turned out pretty good. The overhangs were just right. I've still got to I've got a piece of rake laying down on the bed of the sawmill that goes right here on this end, and it'll kind of finish that off. Hope to be able to put some gutters on the back, or a gutter on the back, be able to pipe the water down off the side of the hill here. Something that I did, and I had a piece of rake that goes on this end, but I was only about 1 rib section too long. So actually what I decided to do here was to double up the metal on this end, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but starting with about that 3rd rib right there, you see it's sticking up a little bit. Actually it's about the 4th one. I doubled I just over underlap the metal, used a full sheet, and ended up with about a 4-inch hangover on this end. And even though this is the rake that I was talking about that goes on the edge, and you can see how it's formed, and it turns up on like this, and this part here is on the top, and this part here is on the side of the top. And I had 2 pieces of that, but I really just decided, even though it may not look exactly uniform, I've decided to leave this piece of rake off and give me just a little bit more hangover here on this end. You see the numbers 1, 2, 3 down here. Remember, I was talking about I was going to have to piece the fascia up there where it didn't quite meet. There was about a 2-inch space between it. And I mentioned that I was going to make some type of little ornamental board. Well, that is a piece of one of our utility poles that we sawed up for a lot of the parts. This fascia, the post, and had that piece, and I just cut it down. Those numbers were on the poles, the utility poles, so I just decided to put the piece and the numbers back up. And the orange on the end, as you can see here, kind of represents wood miser. So going to wrap this video up. Thank you for joining us. The sun is still brightly shining here in Northwest Alabama. Been a beautiful day to work on a sawmill, and I really do appreciate you joining us today. So again, thank you for joining us. I really do appreciate. Be sure to give us a thumbs up, and if you would, share it with a friend. Leave a comment down below. And don't forget, if you're a first-time viewer, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, St. Nick's Farms. Hope you enjoy them. Hope you've enjoyed this one. This is Larry. Have a great one, folks. See you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Sawmill shed, roof on.